Hello, all you mischievous furniture rearrangers out there, and welcome to Undeclared Bajor. My name is Fletcher, about to say hello is Data.
Hey!
Today we're going to discuss and review Star Trek Deep Space Nine, Season 4, Episode 11, Homefront. Alternate title, since we're not in deep space anymore, Shallow Space Nine.
Oh, you were right. That one wasn't very good.
But if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, you may notice that now the episode numbers of the episode we're reviewing line up with the episode numbers of the episode of the podcast, thanks to the special episode we did last time.
How convenient.
So I was doing a lot of thinking in the last few weeks because that was annoying me so much.
Yeah.
I was like, I got to find some kind of like Apple only special that we can do to make those line up. But now we've solved that problem. So yay.
Isn't like I'm sorry, going back slightly. Like, as opposed to outer space, isn't like the area near the Earth's surface called inner space? It could have been like Inner Space Nine.
Isn't inner space like... that just makes me think of that movie that about going inside the body, so...
Oh, no, you're right, yeah.
But as always, you can expect full spoilers up through this episode being discussed, a possible small number of spoilers for later in the series, kept to an appropriate minimum, and unlimited spoilers for everything else. Statue of Liberty... You know, all that stuff.
I did love when the Statue of Liberty showed up on the show.
They're like, oh my god. Homefront originally aired on January 1st, 1996. New year. It was written by ISB and RHW and directed by David Livingston.
Yeah, we know all these guys this time.
So no crazy dead men walking... No Hugo Award-winning novelists, just the regular old crew of Deep Space Nine.
I don't know. Has Ira Stephen Bear ever won a Hugo for a novel?
I doubt it, but it's possible. I didn't know he wrote novels.
I don't know. Hold on. Now I'm going to his career outside Star Trek. I don't know that we may have done this before, but we're going to find out. His first breakthrough was the James Garner television series Brett Maverick, which we did reference because we had somebody else who worked with him on that.
Yes.
Consulting producer on Dark Angel, executive producer on The Twilight Zone, the 2000 version, not the...
Mm-hmm.
Executive producer and writer on Renee Echevarria's The 4400.
Oh, Renee Echevarria was on that? That was a cool show, from what I remember.
I watched, I feel like I remember distinctly watching like the first 2 episodes or something, but that was it.
That starred Mahershala Ali back when he was called Mahershala Hashbaz Ali.
Renee Echevarria apparently created it along with Scott Peters, so.
Huh. Cool. I mean, I think I watched the first season or something. I never saw how it ended.
Well, yeah, it doesn't mention anything about him writing books.
Yeah.
I like the last line. Bear is a fan of the Lord of the Rings movies, as well as The Office, 30 Rock, The Venture Brothers, Deadwood, The Sopranos, and Rome. So it's just like, somebody was like, hey, what do you like? We're going to put it in your bio on here.
Venture Brothers is pretty awesome.
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree.
I still haven't watched that new movie yet.
But oh, you should totally watch that new movie. I have it.
Is it streaming somewhere, or?
I don't think it's streaming for free yet. I think it's going to be on Max at some point, but I bought it on Amazon.
Yeah, I'll catch it when it hits Max. I need to rewatch the whole series anyway, but that's kind of one of my many problems. Like, I need to rewatch. I still haven't seen the last season of BoJack Horseman because I want to rewatch the whole series first. I still haven't watched the second half of the last season of Twin Peaks because I want to rewatch the whole series before then, and every time I try that, something goes wrong. Like when it was like 2 years ago we had that power outage, and then last time I went to that cabin, and then there was a power outage at the cabin. So apparently every time I try to watch Twin Peaks, the power goes out. Disastrously.
This Scott Peters guy, I'm sorry, I was looking at him while we were talking, and it's just like he doesn't have the greatest filmography for like successful things. Like 4400 didn't last that long. He did Batwoman for a little bit, Marvel's Runaways for a little bit. The short-lived Outer Limits revival.
Did that Runaways show have more than one season?
I only watched one season. I know there were at least 2. I think maybe there were 3.
I think I got halfway through the first season.
So, yes, there are 3 seasons of that show. And in the 3rd season, Elizabeth Hurley shows up as Morgan Le Fay. That actually sounds kind of interesting. Maybe I should go back and watch the other seasons.
Yeah, I haven't seen Elizabeth Hurley in a while.
I know, right? But yeah, sorry. The power outages are preventing you from doing things, and right. I feel you.
Those Karima guys keep throwing their power outage bombs at me.
Yeah, that's what it was. They're following you, and they don't want you to watch things.
Right. Anyway, recapping this episode of Star Trek Deep Space Nine.
Mm-hmm.
Shallow Space Nine. Everybody gathers around and watches as the wormhole keeps opening and closing for no apparent reason. What's causing it? A message from the prophets? Did the remote for the wormhole get stuck between the couch cushions?
That's what always happens to me, so...
Sisko has no clue, and Dax jokes that maybe it's because the prophets don't recognize him with his beard, which he's had since the end of last season. So
I was about to say, like, we've gotten a lot of episodes since then for you to be bringing it up now.
Worf calls Sisko to ops, just as Dax sees Odo step onto the promenade and starts laughing to herself.
Maybe it's a callback to the fact that this was supposed to be the finale, or this idea was kind of supposed to be the finale for last season.
It was just like some leftover dialogue from... Yeah. Odo storms into Quark's and interrupts Quark telling Morn a joke about the Andorian says, "That's not my antenna." Which I don't even need to hear the rest of the joke. I get it.
Yeah, no.
Odo tells Quark that Dax keeps breaking into his quarters when he's sleeping and moving his furniture around, which, if true, is kind of a dickish thing to do.
That is that was exactly what I was going to say. It's 100% a dick move to, like... I understand that from her perspective, she's like, I'm moving it like 2 millimeters. It's not a big deal. But she knows that it is a big deal to him. Right. Otherwise, she wouldn't be doing it. So why you got to be like that, Dax?
She's totally doing it to annoy him. I enjoy a good piece of trolling every now and then. But, you gotta know exactly where that line is and play with it. Don't just, like, be breaking into people's houses and moving their furniture around. And then Quark is like, what's the big deal? And Odo says, humanoids have no sense of order. So, get that little peek into Odo's psyche for this episode. Then Sisko calls Odo up to Ops 2. The report, a Federation Romulan diplomatic conference on Earth, has been bombed.
Oh.
27 are dead, including one Tholian.
Yeah, the Tholian observer.
Right.
They're going to have this big conference between the Romulans and the Federation, and the Tholians like, hey, can we send somebody to watch? And they're all just like, I mean, I guess, why not?
I just imagine them, and they're in there, and there's this, like, giant glowy spider monster in the corner watching them.
Yeah, just hanging
and it's
out.
Like, the Romulans are like, excuse me, this is a little unsettling.
This is very distracting.
Worf runs some video analysis, which seems to show that a changeling was in the room, disguised as a vase for some reason. That's right. The changelings have come to Earth and have figured out how to look like vases.
It's not like it would be hard to get to Earth. Like they're like, the changelings have made it to Earth, and I'm just like, did you really think they couldn't? Like,
right.
Why is this a surprise?
Yeah, I believe it's probably very easy for one changeling to get to Earth.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just hide in somebody's suitcase.
I also like that this meeting is taking place in Antwerp. Who knows? Maybe Antwerp's just where these sort of things happen in the future, but it seemed like such a random choice to me.
Yeah, maybe that's where their diplomacy complex is or something.
Once you got to the point where you could replicate diamonds, like they had to find something to do with the famous diamond district in Antwerp, and so they changed it to the diplomacy district. Right. They didn't even have to change like the abbreviations.
Yep, yeah. So welcome to the Double D. So Dax helps Odo fix his furniture right before he's scheduled to board a ship for Earth. The ship's called the Lakota, which confused me when I was watching the episode because they're like, It's like, we called the Lakota and they let us use their transporters. I was like, wait, the Lakota, the tribe?
Yeah, they have their own, like, on the reservation transporters not connected to anything else.
It's like, we don't want anything to do with any of this other Federation stuff.
I do like, so I guess the Lakota is the only Federation ship in orbit of Earth at this point. It seems kind of...
Yeah, this is that thing, like, Star Trek Generations, was the Enterprise B the only ship?
Yeah, exactly. Like, this does seem to happen a lot, that there are no other ships hanging around near the center of, like, the governance of the Federation, which maybe there should be.
Maybe it's just so peaceful they never think they need it. Sisko calls his dad, but fails to tell him his plan to stay in San Francisco, which, much to Jake's annoyance, who worries he's going to have to work in the kitchen. Sisko also asks with some concern about his dad's new aorta. So, I mean, considering his dad was pretty much dead at one point.
Yeah, like, it's strongly implied in the episode The Alternate, when he's talking about, like, seeing his dad, like, lying on that bed looking so small and he realized there was nothing he could do. Like, it really seems like he's saying his dad was died.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And here they're like, oh, well, he was really sick, but he kind of recovered.
Right. And I think they did mention that he was still alive in The Visitor.
Oh, now that you say that, I think you're right.
I think he said, like, Jake moved to New Orleans and helped out at his grandpa's restaurant or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's not out of nowhere.
Maybe they already had this planned.
Yeah.
This little thing.
O'Brien and Bashir will not be going and distract themselves from the Earth situation by playing the Battle of Britain in the holosuite. And O'Brien has a crazy English accent.
And they say the most random things, which... So, this specifically calls out cabbage crates coming over the briny and pranged his kite, which are these weird things they're saying, are both from Monty Python's The Banter sketch. Although when I looked it up on YouTube to watch the sketch, it was called, like, RAF Banter or something like that.
Oh. Nice little homage, I guess.
And it's funny because in the sketch, like, the guy's saying all this stuff like this, and the other guy's just like, I have no idea what you just said. And he's like, I'm bantering. And it's like, yeah, I'm not understanding you at all. I don't know.
Quark commiserates by remembering the great Ferengi financial collapse.
Yep.
So he was like, oh my gosh, the markets were in free fall and there was nothing I could do. Then they spot Odo, and O'Brien asks him to check in on his folks in Dublin. But Bashir has no request.
He's very awkward about it too, which maybe that's foreshadowing something to do with his family. Who knows?
Yeah. So the wormhole finally calms down, and Kira is disappointed that the prophets weren't revealing themselves after all. And then Worf tells a little story about the Klingon gods. He's like, we killed the Klingon gods. They were more trouble than they were worth.
Yup. That's, that's one way to do it.
Okay. So Sisko and Odo arrive at Starfleet headquarters and are greeted by Admiral Layton and his adjutant, Commander Leah Brahms. I mean, Benteen.
Yeah, I mean, they're not even, like, disguising her as a different species or anything. This is just the same person from those earlier episodes of Next Generation.
Which, like, through half the episode, I was like, that lady looks exactly like Leah Brahms. And I finally had to look it up to convince myself I wasn't crazy. Layton regards Odo with a sort of friendly fascination, but he insists that something must be done about the changelings. And he puts Sisko in charge of Starfleet security on Earth. So I don't know if this is Sisko's new full-time job, or...
yeah, it seems kind of like it, huh?
I mean, he seems to be like, all right, yeah, I'll do this job. Who cares about Deep Space Nine?
He does feel like he's the best candidate because he knows the most about changelings, him and Odo.
Yep. They've been doing this dance, so... Next stop is Sisko's restaurant in New Orleans, where Joseph Sisko is entertaining his many patrons by telling them what to order off the dessert menu. He's like, everything on the dessert menu is crap except the bread pudding. Just get that.
Get the bread pudding. So it says, in the screenplay for the episode, Joseph Sisko is described by saying, the years are starting to run out, a fact that he is determined not to reveal to his son. So that's the setting of the scene for this character. Also, I guess it mentions that Admiral Layton is a veteran of conflicts with the Romulans, Tholians, Cardassians, and the Borg.
Sure.
And Jerish Inyo is described as a willowy, contemplative humanoid alien.
Ooh,
So,
willowy.
Yeah.
But Sisko is worried about his dad's apparent weight loss. Soon they are joined by Cadet Nog, who reveals that Sisko's is the only place on Earth you can get live tube grubs. So...
they're probably not much in demand. So.
Old man Sisko wants to cook them with a nice remoulade. But Nog is like, no, having them like wiggle down your throat is the best part.
Oh, there's no explanation for why this random New Orleans guy, what is his pipeline to live tube grubs?
Yeah. He's just, he's an old restaurateur. He knows how to get stuff.
Maybe he has a neighbor who just breeds tube grubs for fun. And, I don't know. It made me think maybe he should open a Ferengi restaurant. Like they have the Klingon restaurant on the station or whatever. And then I thought, no, there's probably nobody who wants to eat Ferengi food. Let's be fair.
Yeah. Yeah, I imagine just Nog showed up at the restaurant, introduced himself. He's like, hey, do you have any tube grubs? And he was like, I bet I could get tube grubs.
Yeah, that seems like probably what happened. Is that he's just such a nice, accommodating guy, and to his patrons, and this is a friend of his grandson. So he's like, you know what? I'll look for him for you.
Yeah. And plus, Ferengi love commerce. I'm sure it's easy to find a supplier.
Also, I don't know if you recognize him, but the actor who plays Joseph Sisko played Admiral Cartwright in Star Trek 4 and Star Trek 6.
Ah, along with Rene Auberjonois.
Yeah, and it actually does mention in here, it's you've got, this episode has Rene Auberjonois, it has Brock Peters, and it has Michael Dorn, all of whom played supporting characters in Star Trek 6.
Nice.
And the Office of the Federation President, located in Paris, is seen in Star Trek 6 and faithfully recreated in this episode, just with a bit of furniture relocation.
Was Star Trek 6 the one where the president was played by that guy with sunglasses or something?
I do not recall what the president... Hold on, let's see. Star Trek 6 president. Kurtwood Smith as Federation president.
Kurtwood Smith?
Yes, he totally was. Was that in Star Trek 6, really? I guess so.
Nice. Man. What a movie.
So no sunglasses guy. It's this guy looks kind of like a Klingon, but apparently he is an Efrosian.
Okay. I don't know why in my memory he was wearing sunglasses.
But I would not have recognized that as Kurtwood Smith if
right.
I hadn't just read that.
And I think Joseph, Admiral Cartwright turned out to be a bad guy in that movie, didn't he? Just like Rene Auberjonois.
Yep. He's he's one of those bad generals or bad admirals, I mean, or as the Star Trek fandom sometimes calls them because they're so common, badmirals.
And then Rene Auberjonois tried to assassinate the Klingon Chancellor.
As you do.
Yeah. But after dinner, Nog confides in Jake that a lot of the students at the academy are kind of cliquish and unwelcoming. Especially the upperclassmen. And especially some guys called Red Squad. But Jake just tells him to hang in there. In Paris, Leighton and Sisko pay a visit to Jerish Inyo, president of the Federation, and pitch him on increased security measures to combat the changeling threat. The president feels uneasy and does not want to take steps to disrupt life on Earth. But to make a point, Sisko's briefcase shapeshifts into Odo, which makes a convincing impression.
Yeah, he kind of freaks out, but at the same, he doesn't freak out as much as he might. He's not running away or anything. He's just like, oh, what the?
He's like, you got me.
Yep.
Which you should have seen that coming when Sisko was carrying a briefcase all of a sudden.
Yeah, how often do people carry briefcases around here? Seriously.
I always want to bring this up when I see it, but Chief O'Brien has a tool case.
Yep.
And that tool case, I'm convinced, is exactly the same case as a camcorder case my dad used to have when I was growing up.
Okay.
I gotta see if I can find this case, but it's spray painted silver or something. Because every time I see that case, I'm like, I know that case.
I've seen that case. Where's that case? Yeah. Okay. That's interesting. So there's some stuff about this guy who plays Jerish Inyo in here.
Okay.
Because his name is Herschel Sparber.
Cool.
And in his article on here, it always mentions like other stuff these actors have done with other actors who have been in Star Trek. And so it's like, he later appeared on such programs as News Radio with Andy Dick and Stephen Root. So I guess referencing, I don't even remember when Stephen Root was in Star Trek.
Andy Dick's time as the pervy EMH program.
But he says, the funny thing is, I always thought I would get on as a Klingon because I'm 6'9" and weigh 300 pounds. So to play a character as peaceful as Jerish Inyo was a surprise.
Huh.
I was very pleased with the part, and it was nice to start at the top.
Yeah, sure.
And then it's got Ron Surma agreed with Sparber's thoughts about casting him as a Klingon, but was impressed by Sparber's performance and thoughts on the character. Sparber commented, they had said that Jerish Inyo was a Grazerite. But of course, nobody knew what a Grazerite was yet.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the actors who auditioned for the role thought of like antelopes and gazelles, but I thought of a wildebeest as Jerish Inyo. I wanted to combine gentleness with an inherent underlying power. The producers liked that because it was different from everything else they'd seen, and I think that's why I got the role.
Sure. Nice.
But after the fact, it seems like maybe they weren't such big fans of it, because there's Jerish Inyo was not a popular character with the producers and some viewers. It was generally felt that he came across as far too soft to be the leader of the Federation. There was no chance someone like him would have ever gotten into that position. Interestingly, of this problem, Ira Stephen Bear simply says, the casting decision didn't particularly work, implying that the producers were unhappy with Herschel Sparber's performance. The writers saw Jerish Inyo as being like Jimmy Carter. Yeah, that was the most random. It's like, so he's supposed to be Jimmy Carter the Grazerite, all right?
In what way?
Yeah. He loves peanuts. It doesn't come up in the script, but...
All the scenes where Jerish Inyo builds a habitat for humanity got cut out of the movie. Or cut out of the episode. So the president agrees to phaser sweeps for Starfleet facilities and blood screenings for high-ranking officers.
And their families.
Apparently. So while Sisko, Odo, and Bentine run phaser sweep tests, Nog comes to talk to Sisko to ask for a recommendation to get into Red Squad.
Which I feel like this early, and he's been here for a month, apparently. Which, by the way, places this episode like exactly a month after Little Green Men. But it's like, I don't know that you deserve to be recommended for the super special squad. Well, just because you can't make friends? Like
he says he has the grades, so...
Yeah, after 1 month, his grades should get him in. It just seems random to me.
Yeah, I don't know.
Cisco would even consider this at this point.
I mean, Cisco's like, what's Red Squad? Isn't that from, like, Star Wars?
Yeah, he's like, they didn't have that when I was at the Academy.
Although, you make a good point. They did manage to get to Earth without accidentally traveling back in time. Mm-hmm. So, good on them. So yeah, he's never heard of it. He's a little too busy to mess with it right now. Sisko heads back to New Orleans, where his dad whines that Ben and Jake never come to see him. Ben says he's welcome to come visit Deep Space Nine whenever he wants, then scolds him for not obeying medical advice.
Yep.
He's like, hey, you're not doing what your doctor says. He's like, the doctor doesn't even know the difference between Creole food and Cajun food.
Oh, God.
And I'm like, oh, is that bad?
It's very... Oh, man, do you not know the difference between Creole... You get out of here. You're unworthy.
Yep. I mean, it all comes in like an Uncle Ben's rice pouch. So
I can be like in a styrofoam container that I take home and eat alone at my dining table.
Right. That's the same thing as ramen, right?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
That's Creole food.
You throw some Creole seasoning on the ramen and you're there. I do have to say that I like that even in an episode where where like Sisko's family is important and Jake is in the episode, they come up with reasons to like keep Jake out of most of the episode. Like, oh, he's off in New Zealand doing right. like stuff at that school.
Yeah. He wants to check out that school.
He doesn't want to work in his grandpa's kitchen is what it is.
Right. So, oh, yay, shucking the crayfish.
That is so much fun.
So back at Starfleet Academy, or Starfleet headquarters or whatever, Odo lands in a Japanese garden or something after flying around as a seagull. I was just like, there's one of those Japanese garden things that you see, like, in the background. I was just like, huh. He's greeted by Leighton and Benteen. Leighton immediately starts throwing a bunch of mean stares and sly insults at Odo. So Odo becomes suspicious and grabs Leighton, revealing him as a changeling. Then Leighton turns into a seagull and flies away.
Yeah, just to show that he can do that too.
He's like, yeah, you think being a seagull is special? Watch this.
I feel like, for some reason, there's a scene in Picard, maybe season 1 of Picard, that takes place in this exact same spot where they have this confrontation. And I want to go and find out if that's correct. But I don't know, since I don't remember what scene that would be. I remember the scene. I don't remember what episode it would be in.
I mean, this building is a famous filming location. It's like I forget what it is in real life, but I feel like you see it in a lot of TV shows when they need a kind of futuristic looking building.
Oh, maybe.
I want to say it's like something related to a power plant or a water treatment center or something like that.
I have often heard of power plants being used as futuristic buildings.
But apparently the real Leighton is okay. So just that one time was the only time he was the changeling.
Yeah. Or so we think. Maybe he's really the changeling all along.
So he, Sisko, Benteen, and Odo have a meeting where they decide they need to up security procedures, but worry that soft president won't be on board. But just then Sisko gets a call that his dad has been arrested. Apparently Joe refuses to take the mandatory blood test for families of high-ranking Starfleet officers. Which, yep. I gotta say, I kind of agree with him. Like, if the changelings are able to get intel from being, like, his chef dad, then he kind of deserves what happens.
Well, yeah, but I mean, Sisko has a point where it's like, it's not about you specifically. There are families who are in more sensitive areas, and we can't be like, we're going to check you, but we're not going to check other people's families. That wouldn't be fair.
I think they could easily do that. Be like, hey, you live on this like highly sensitive Starfleet ship. You're going to get blood tested.
Yeah.
It's like you live at a restaurant, or you work at a restaurant in New Orleans. Yeah, we're going to let you go. Well, luckily he accidentally cuts himself chopping some vegetables, and Sisko realizes how paranoid he's been. Then Joseph makes a chilling speech about how, in truth, if the changelings were smart, there's really nothing anybody could do to stop them. Then he has a stroke.
Which, he has this whole talk about, like, if I was a smart changeling, I'd do this thing. And then it makes you wonder if we've seen anyone do exactly that at some point.
Yeah. He's like, I would find somebody and drink all their blood and just, like, carry it around inside of me. Although you think, while they're doing these blood tests, they're doing some kind of, like, DNA screenings on the test, too, right?
Who knows? Because the previous times we've seen them do that, it's like they just take some blood and shake it around, and they're like, "No, this is good."
Yeah, you'd think somebody would have thought of that, but
nope. Only this chef has that kind of like 4-dimensional thinking.
So Sisko meets with Odo. They talk about the effectiveness of the security measures. Sisko wishes Odo had never met his people, and Odo's not sure he disagrees. Back at the restaurant, Jake tells his grandpa he should be in bed. But Joe says the only time you should be in bed is when you're sleeping, dying, or making love to a beautiful woman. So ugly women have to stand. Even average-looking women. Sorry. Then the lights go out. Apparently it's a global power outage. It seems that control of the entire global grid has been put into the hands of ERCOT.
Oh, that hits too close to home.
Some topical, timely humor there. Leighton and Odo suspect sabotage. They head over to the president's office and ask him to declare a state of emergency. Sisko theorizes that the weird wormhole behavior might be due to cloaked Dominion ships coming through the wormhole, using cloaking devices recovered from the Die is Cast incident.
I mean, yeah, could happen.
Pretty good theory.
I mean, really, all you need is like one of those ships, and then you reverse engineer the cloaking device, and you can have a bunch. Like it makes you wonder how more people don't end up with cloaking technology, honestly.
I mean, maybe cloaking, just the secret of cloaking technology is just really well kept. I don't know.
I mean, we know why the Federation doesn't. Despite the fact that back in the original series, like, there's a whole thing where they go and steal a cloaking device from a Romulan ship, and Spock, like, makes out with a Romulan chick or something. Or was that Kirk? I don't remember. Doesn't matter. But now we have that treaty that we can't have cloaks. So
Sure.
But I doubt all the other races are willing to jump on board with this. Like, oh, the Romulans don't want anyone else to have cloaking. Okay, we won't.
I mean, I think it's just like, the recipe for Coke. I mean, it's just really hard to figure out, and only a few people know it.
So there's a bit here where Jerish Inyo specifically says, with the exception of the Borg incident, which I guess doesn't count, there hasn't been a state of emergency declared on Earth in a century. And so it says, this could refer to the V'ger incident in Star Trek The Motion Picture, which is conjecturally set exactly a century before this episode. Huh. On the other hand, the Star Trek chronology, which is apparently a specific document, speculates this to be a reference to the Wales probe's inadvertent attack on Earth seen in Star Trek 4, set some 86 years before this episode, which I was like, yeah, there probably was an emergency declared for that.
Yeah, like, it was like evaporating all the oceans and stuff?
Yeah, exactly.
I'd say that was kind of an emergency. So yeah, Leighton wants to put armed troops in the streets to fight off an invasion. After listening to lots of speeches, Jerish Inyo gives them what they want. At Cisco's in New Orleans, Joe and Jake look on with concern as armed troops start beaming into the streets. To be continued.
I thought they were relieved when the troops started showing up.
Why would they be relieved?
Well, because like everything went dark and they were scared about what might happen because the power was out everywhere. And then it was like, oh, people are showing up and like helping. This is good.
I thought they were like, oh my goodness, so something scary is happening or is about to happen. Look at all these guys with guns showing up. There's going to be fighting in the streets of New Orleans. And it's not even Mardi Gras.
I was about to say, that hasn't happened since like the Battle of New Orleans or something. There's a song about it and everything.
And this time, the war isn't already over.
Or is it?
Oh.
The Dominion may have won. We just don't know it yet. Initially, this episode was to contain references to United Earth and an explanation of how the Federation president could override the United Earth government and declare martial law, and why no United Earth government officials are seen in the episode. However, according to Ronald D. Moore, all references to it were cut to prevent the episode from being overly complicated.
So is United Earth like the state of the Federation?
Yeah.
That Earth is?
Yeah, I guess like Earth has its own government, just like a state government in the U.S., and then the UFP government is over that.
Sure. Yeah, that might be a little too convoluted.
There's one other note here where Robert Hewitt Wolf specifically is on record as being unhappy with how some of this went. As a direct result of the show being pushed back into mid-season, because, like it was supposed to be like the carryover cliffhanger or whatever. Imagine like ending on this something like this. Although in the original version, it was like the changelings infiltrate Earth and they're trying to destabilize the Federation, and they bring it to like near the point of civil war. And this episode would have ended with with Vulcan withdrawing from the Federation as the civil war is imminent. And at the end of the episode, a Starfleet ship opens fire on a Vulcan transport.
Ooh, so this is part of the whole Vulcan succession arc.
Yeah.
That got replaced with the Klingon thing.
Yeah, so that was the original idea. But he says, as a direct result of it being pushed back to mid-season where there wasn't too much money around, Robert Hewitt Wolf was disappointed with the outcome of this two-parter. If it hadn't been for the Way of the Warrior, he says, we would have had the necessary money to spend on this two-parter. As well as that, he was disappointed with its positioning within the season. He says, it wasn't in sweeps. It came out in the middle of nowhere.
I mean, don't you usually, like, you try to drum up ratings with big sweeps episodes, not the other way around, right?
Yeah, right, yeah.
You don't advertise like, look at this episode, it must be good, it's in sweeps, come watch it.
I think maybe the idea is like they would have been willing to put more money into it if it was sweeps also.
Sure. Okay. Makes sense.
This is the first time we see Cisco wearing a Next Generation era uniform since the pilot episode Emissary.
Yeah, I was wondering why they were back in the old uniforms all of a sudden.
So I guess on Earth they haven't transitioned to the new uniforms yet.
I guess. I mean, we saw in Star Trek Generations people wearing the Deep Space Nine uniforms, so
Yep.
I don't understand how this uniform situation works.
Well, see, and in the original, in the thing that we read, I think at the time, it was like the explanation was that stations get the uniforms first, and then the starships will get them later. So it made sense that like Deep Space Nine gets it first, and by generations the Enterprise has gotten it. Earth is somehow lower on the list of where the new uniforms get integrated. And then we watched Lower Decks recently, and they have a different kind of uniform that coexists with like Mesk wearing like the black and gray uniform. And apparently, like in watching more of that show, it's like this one type of uniform is like mostly confined to this one class of ship. So it's even more granular in that. I don't. It's strange.
Yeah, they really need to get their uniform situation figured out, because
it seems like it would be less difficult to put everybody in the same uniform. I don't understand why you.
It's like, okay, you are in Zone 12, so you currently have the Class G uniform.
Maybe it makes sense. Maybe it's budgetary in this one where they're like, we can't afford to outfit all of these new people on Earth with these uniforms. We don't have the budget for it. So go and get some of those old next gen uniforms and like shove them in those.
I mean, we don't even see that many people.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like that many Starfleet people.
There's this one random note. When Cisco and Odo are looking over the list of officers being transferred to Earth, Cisco reads off 5 names. Danica, Orr, Mudis, MacWatt, and Snowden, all of whom are characters from Catch-22.
Huh.
So there's a little...
So somebody's just sneaking in lots of references all over the place. Like Monty Python, Catch-22.
Yep. A lot of little things like that these writers, I guess, liked. And the last note I have here is potentially kind of spoilery, so I'm going to vague it up some. But in a future episode, it's going to be revealed that something happened to Odo at some point, and that point is the same stardate as this episode. So it happens right now, but we don't find out about it until later on.
Yes. And then, yes, they did also check that the founders don't like Odo because he killed one of them.
Yeah, so apparently that's why the guy was all sarcastic and grumpy toward Odo.
Right, yeah. He was like, oh yeah, I mean, I'm sure he can look like a bird, but he kind of sucks at looking like people. Regular changelings are good at looking like people, though, so...
Yeah, most of us don't suck as much as this guy does. I mean, most of them don't suck. Yeah, right.
I can't believe Odo got onto him so quickly. It's like the first time he met, he was like, oh man, like I've never met a changelings before. This is fascinating. And then all of a sudden he's like, oh yeah, his people are way cooler than him. Like they can look like all kinds of stuff. They're so skilled.
Random thing, like on the wiki article for the episode, it always shows like the moment that the title, like a screenshot at the moment when the title comes up on the screen.
Sure.
And for this one, it's such a weird moment that to get screenshotted, because it's the moment like you're seeing through Odo's furniture as Dax tries to put it back where it was.
Sure. Hey, you got to put up the title somewhere.
That's true.
Until you get those really cool title cards, those Batman style title cards.
Yeah, those cost money.
It would be like a picture of a bunch of Starfleet officers, and one of them's turning into some changeling goo or something. I don't know. Like those cool episode posters that we found that one time.
Yeah.
Did you figure out where that Starfleet building is filmed?
No, I found the episode that it wasn't Picard, but it doesn't mention like where that building was. What is it? Starfleet headquarters? Maybe we can just look that up.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and you can see the little garden outside in this like matte painting. Okay, so where is it?
Tillman Water Reclamation Plant in Van Nuys, California.
Van Nuys, yep. Oh, also Starfleet Academy scenes are filmed there. While the exterior footage of Presidio, Starfleet headquarters and Homefront, could have been easily misconstrued as being largely a matte painting, that was only true in small part. Most of the view, in actuality, was live footage of the Tillman Water Reclamation Plant. Can't talk. So, yeah, that specifically calls out this episode. It's like, no, that's all what it really looks like.
Yeah.
For the most part, anyway.
I mean, I've seen it in tons of other TV shows. So, I was like, I know that's like a real place somewhere.
The location in Justice of the Next Generation, Starfleet Academy in the First Duty and Times Arrow, a bridge in the Japanese Garden in the First Duty. Oh, okay, so that's just... So, yeah, it is Japanese Garden that's out there. In Deep Space Nine, it shows up in Homefront and Paradise Lost, and in the 7th season as Starfleet headquarters again. In Voyager, it when like Starfleet Academy and headquarters or whatever are recreated by Species 847-2. I remember that. It doesn't mention that it showed up in Picard, so maybe that's my imagination that it was that same spot.
Interesting.
In the 2014 episode of the television reality show Storage Wars, an episode called Bid Strong and Prosper, the site served as the backdrop for a Gabriel Kerner-headed 3 Trekkie team in Star Trek attire from the Los Angeles Star Trek Club, asking for a value estimate of collectible Star Trek items found in an abandoned storage locker.
Huh. Okay.
So, yeah, there you go.
Have to go check that place out someday.
Yeah, if you're ever in LA, Van Nuys, why not? I don't feel any desire to go to LA for any reasons, so.
See all the sights. My one note I haven't mentioned is just like this whole scenario is just like Odo's fantasy come true.
It kind of is. Like, he is so on board with this stuff.
He's like, finally, these humanoids are willing to do what it takes.
I mean, it's sad that it has to be against my people, I guess, but and that I have to get shot with a phaser a bunch of times. But they're finally understanding.
He's like, please let me pitch my security cameras in everybody's house idea. Like, no. Let's save that one. We'll save that one for later, Odo. That's a good idea. We all like it, but we got to lead with the stuff that we think will play.
I was just reading this story about a lady who was suing Airbnb. I think it was Airbnb, because like they had allowed a person to put a camera in their room, like aimed at the bed, and then like not tell people about it when renting the place. And it was like she made a complaint and they were supposed to refund her, and like she didn't even spend the night there, but when she found out about the camera or whatever, and then like they didn't want to give the money that they said they were going to give her, and then they're like, well, prove there's a camera there. And she's like, I have your response saying that you knew about the camera and that you'd like okayed that it to be there, but like if I didn't want to be there, that was fine, you'd refund me. And apparently the court did not, like, that was hearsay in court that they had admitted that they knew about the camera. So like, well, prove that there was a camera there.
Sleazy.
The whole thing.
Sleazy people. These Airbnb people.
So I guess title review?
Okay. Homefront. Yeah?
I mean, yeah. I think it makes a lot of sense.
It's it's kind of a reference to like World War II.
Right.
They were always talking about the home front.
Yeah.
You had to take special precautions to help the boys overseas or whatever.
I mean, if there was actually an official war happening, I feel like it would make slightly more sense, but there's kind of like a Cold War thing going on, so I'm okay with it.
Yeah. At least they're not sending people to internment camps or whatever.
Not yet. I mean, if Odo gets his way, who knows?
Yeah. It's like, we need to send all changelings to internment camps. Wait a second.
Anyone who won't take a blood test, internment camp. But they can turn into birds and fly away, so
right.
Maybe that wouldn't actually be very effective. Internment aviary.
Yeah.
I think it's a solid title.
No complaints. Does the job.
Honestly, my one thing about it would probably be, I wouldn't necessarily remember if it was this episode or the next episode, if you just said Homefront.
Yeah.
But that's not like a big...
Yeah,
that's a nitpick.
So, episode ratings.
Yeah. What do you think? What are you going to rate this one?
I really don't have much to say about this. I mean, it's just mainly a lot of build-up, There's some good scenes, but it's And, we're rating the episodes on their own legs, on their own merits or whatever. So, just by itself, it kind of just feels like a bunch of setting up for some stuff that may be cool in a later episode. Who knows? Like, it does the job of making me want to watch the next one, but it's not like the one Improbable Cause, where, that was just an awesome episode in its own right.
Right, yeah.
Even while setting up for the next big thing. So, yeah, I'm just going to give it a Lieutenant Commander for this one.
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
So, what do you think?
I like it. I think that the Cisco's dad is... I like his character. I like the way that he plays off of Ben, and I like the things that they do with him, the speech that they give him and stuff. Like, there's a lot of good stuff with him. I think he did really well. I also like the stuff at Starfleet pretty well. I think that they're telling a story that it's like, this isn't the kind of thing that you get to see all that often with the Federation, where you have, we're on Earth and it's like, it's like freedom versus security thing again. It's like, it's a Benjamin Franklin thing. And I feel like they play it really well. They play it better than Picard tries to do some similar stuff, for sure, I would say. I feel like they hit a good balance here where you're kind of like, they've got you agreeing, I think, with like a lot of this stuff where it's like, no, this Dominion thing is a threat. And yeah, some people might not like giving blood samples or whatever, but if that is a test that works, which we have our doubts about, especially after the speech, but it's like, this is the test that we have that we can try. I understand why they would want to do it. Mm. And so I feel like it's a good, it's thought provoking. And I think that they ride the line here well without it feeling like over the top or preachy in kind of either direction, which I appreciate. So as a setup, I like it a lot. I agree that it's not on the level of something like it's not really standing on its own particularly well, because like you said, it is pretty much all set up for where we're going next.
Right.
So for me, it was like, I was going between like a high lieutenant commander and a low commander, which is a place that I've been a couple times this season. Actually, this season is just proving to have some pretty good episodes that are kind of on that line for me. So I think where I'm going to come down, I think I'm going to go lieutenant commander also.
Okay. Yeah, it is kind of touching on that sort of core of Deep Space Nine, I guess. Mm-hmm, like the, Ira Stephen Bear, like, what was that speech he gave? Like the Earth is too comfortable speech or whatever.
Yeah, right. I remember it.
Yeah, this is kind of definitely getting into some of that territory. So, yeah, and Old Man Cisco's a fun character. So,
yeah, it's like I'm sad that he doesn't seem inclined to ever come and visit them on Deep Space Nine, because he's a fun guy. I want to see more of him.
I think I just have to agree with his analysis of the situation, though, which is like, these measures aren't really going to do anything to help anybody. So it's like, it's more like the illusion of security than actual security.
Yeah, that's true. The phaser sweeps are good.
Yeah, apparently.
But they need to come up with some better tests. But a better test might be even more invasive. And then if they had a more invasive test that was successful, well, then which side do you end up on?
Right. Yeah.
I think, as opposed to what we heard in here, I like the way that they played the president of the Federation, and he's like, I don't like this. I don't want to do this, but you're convincing me with your arguments, but at the same time, I really don't want to be in this position. And I think that he plays that well, and that I don't have a problem believing that a guy who wants peace and can be convinced to see other people's points of view, I don't have a problem believing that guy could become president of the Federation, because you want to believe in Gene Roddenberry's vision of the Federation as being like this reasonable, peaceful place, and that you don't have to be like a cutthroat, sadistic politician to make it to the top.
Yeah. And, you kind of understand Because he basically says he's not 100% convinced this threat is as big as they say it is. It's like you got, at that point, it's like you got one kind of blurry shot of what looks like a vase turning into a shapeshifter. Like, what level of infiltration are we really looking at here? I don't know.
The shapeshifter taking Admiral Layton's form and then revealing himself was the worst. If they want to stay hidden, that was the worst way to go.
Right. Yeah, you got to figure, like, he's probably going to want blood tests. Like, he's going to get blood tested.
Yeah.
Like,
but it's just like that. It's like, now we have evidence that there is a shapeshifter on Earth impersonating high-level officials in Starfleet specifically. So that ups the threat quotient a lot. Which I don't know. Maybe that's what the changelings are going for. So maybe it's not a bad decision.
Yeah, I mean, isn't that what Old Man Sisko said or something? It's like, this is what they really want, everybody being paranoid. And because, I mean, what was that shapeshifter even doing? It's like
they asked that question in the show. They're like, why was he impersonating you? Yeah. And it's just like, I mean, you have access to a lot of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, it's like it almost seems like he wanted to get caught. I don't know. Maybe he goaded Odo on purpose. Who knows? But they gotta get some of the boring stuff out of the way, I guess. So, any last thoughts before we wrap this up? Oh wait, what's happening next time on Star Trek Deep Space Nine?
Oh yeah, right. Preview of next week's episode. Imagine XXX State of the Union meets. Oh, I had it. Hold on. Nope, lost it. I came up with one earlier, and I've lost it now. It's gonna meet Valkyrie.
XXX State of the Union meets Valkyrie. Two great, memorable movies. The one XXX movie without Vin Diesel in it.
Yep. I never saw 2 or 3, to be honest with you, but
I know I've seen the first 2, but I couldn't tell you anything about those movies.
I remember the first one pretty well, actually. I have that on DVD, and once upon a time I watched it several times. So I remember that one, but I didn't see the other 2.
That one has that's the one where XXX infiltrates a Rammstein concert.
Yep, exactly.
Anyway, but yeah, look forward to that. That wasn't, XXX State of the Union, wow. But if you made it this far, thank you for listening. Don't forget to check the description, maybe interesting things in there. I'm Fletcher, about to say goodbye as Data.
Bye.
Till we meet again, keep the blood wine warm and the prune juice chilled.